Hi again and welcome to part 4 of the horror series. I'm sorry it took so long, but here it is. In this episode we're going to make the outside part. The player has to walk to the house we created in the earlier episodes. The surrounding will be a forest with a small lake. Also, I want to thank you for all the likes, comments and subscriptions. I really like to help you guys and it's always nice to have positive feedback from you guys. Let's get started with this episode. So now that we have the beginning of a scene, we're going to make the outside part now. First, save this scene and then click File, New Scene. You can delete the main camera and here make a new terrain. Go to Create, 3D Object, Terrain. And it's way too big actually, so we go to this Settings menu and here at Terrain Width we say something like 800. And also this one 800, and then we apply a texture to it. So we go to the paint tool, edit textures, add texture, and then select the grass, so the grass hill. So select this one and change the size to 8 on the X and 8 on the Y and click add. Now also add a new texture, and this one will be the grass rock. So also add this one, set the size to 8 and click add, and one more, and this will be the good dirt, and you set this one to say 10. Then what we want to do is raise the terrain, and to do this we use this paint height tool and set the height to around 10. And then make this brush as large as you can. I also select this brush and opacity to 100 and paint over the whole terrain. So now it looks exactly the same, but it's now raised 10 units. So the thing we want to make is a small path in the forest and a small lake. So the first thing we're going to do is load the terrain in the center. So we change the brush size and actually only the opacity. When you hold shift it will load the terrain. So just drag over it and make a small lake. Then we're going back to the paint tool and select this one. Change the brush size to something small. Opacity something larger. So we start over here. We make a little path and we come to down to this. Then what we want to do is add the water. So we go to Assets, Import Package, and then select the water basic. Import all of this, and then it should be located in the standard assets, water basic, and then drag the nighttime over here. Scale it up so it's the size of the lake, then raise it because it's now flat with the ground. Maybe we need to scale this. No, this should be fine. So something like this. And then we want to paint around the edge some sand. So we change the brush size again and just paint a little sand around the edge here. So this is a little lake. And then we need to add some trees over here. And we already made those trees in the previous scene, so we can still use the same assets, and they're located under prefabs. So if we go to terrain, the place tree tabs, we go edit trees, add tree, and then we just select our tree prefab. So make sure it's the prefab and not the standard assets one. So select the prefabs and then just click add. Because this is a forest, we want the density very large, but we can't just paint thousands of trees over here because our computer can't handle it. So the thing you want to do is set the tree density to say just above 90 and lower the brush size to 15 and just drag around this path on both sides and stop here and go further here, and then we lower it, make the brush size something larger and just paint over here. So when we look to the view of the player, it looks like it's a very dense forest, but actually it's only a little row and the rest is just some randomly placed trees. But it looks like it's a big forest. So maybe around here some little trees, and to place one tree you just set the brush size to 1, and when you click it will place a tree. So just randomly place some here. You only need to do a little of them, don't make a whole mess. And also the other side of the lake, because otherwise we can see that this is all empty. So we place some trees over there also. Density mode. So something like this should be fine. Okay, that's it for the trees, but now we need our character controller again. And we're just going to drag a new one into the scene and not the prefab. So we go to standard assets, character controller, and drag the first person controller in the beginning of your scene. And I think it's the right size. You can just test it out. Yeah, I think this should be fine. Okay. So we're also going to add a skybox. So now we go to the render settings. Those are located in the edit render settings. And over here you can see the skybox material. Click this option box. And then we scroll down till we see Starry Night. Select that one. And when we now hit play, we can see that we have a sky. Only it's way too bright over here, so we're also going to change those settings. And these are also here, the ambient light. Change this to a slightly darker color. Also the fog color we want to set to black and enable it. If now hit play, we can see it's lots better. But we can still see through the forest, so to cover this, we're going to raise the terrain behind those trees. So go back to your terrain and maybe select just the height. So select the larger brush, the opacity to 100 and the height to 20. Also just drag it over your terrain behind those trees. Also around here. And this should be fine. To make the path more visible, we can add some details to it. So we can raise the terrain and select this noise brush. Opacity to say 2. And just click and hold. Maybe a bit larger, say 5, 7. And just click somewhere. And if you now hit play, oh, we fall to the ground. So raise the player a bit. And now you can see some wobbles. And we can't see through the forest. We still have those colliders on the tree. And here is our water. You can change the brightness of the water by going to the horizon color and change this to almost black. Maybe we can do black actually. So as you can see, this looks lots better. I included the model of the house. It's from the asset store and you can find it under Customizable Medieval Houses. I'll provide a link in the description, or you can just download this project file. And we're going to the end of the terrain and quickly smooth out this terrain. Something like this. And then over here we need to add some more trees. Something like this. And then we want to add our house here. So just go to the meshes and drag a couple of these houses in. Maybe just all of them. And we're going to combine these houses to one big house. So we need to scale them because they're quite small. And just place them into each other. So I think this looks quite nice, and we want to make a little path to this door, so the player knows where he needs to go. So we change the brush size to 1, opacity a little bit larger, and just paint a little path. Maybe set this to 2. Okay, and then erase it by going with the green one. So now we have a clear path. I've also included some fences, which you can find under the fences. These are also from the asset store. Link will be also in the description, or you can download this project file. And this will be the main gates to enter this area. So first drag 2 of these gates in the scene. Or maybe just 1. And you can make them quite large. And place them right before the player. Then we duplicate this one. And just rotate it the other way around. And position it against the other one. So this will be our main gate, and we need to open this if we want to enter the area. I'm going to make 2 empty game objects. One will be for the gate. And just drag these into this object and do the same for the houses. So we make this one house. The name doesn't really matter, as long as you can remember them. So now also add the fence column. Make sure to get this one with the arrow and not the other one. Scale them up a bit. Rotate them. And place them against this fence. We also want to add colliders to these things. So we add component, and we do box collider, and it should automatically scale to the right size. Also do this for the fence, and actually the fence gate itself. So in the hierarchy, go to the door, or just click 2 times on this one. So when you got the door, you need to add the component, the box collider, and do the same thing on this one. If you click 2 times, you go to the door. So also add the box collider here. Then we duplicate this column, place it on the other side. And close this once. Also add these columns to the gate. Then we need to add the fence itself. So use fence 1. This has a brick underneath it. Also rotate this one, scale them up, and place them in position. I'll set my tool handles to the local space to make things easier. So place them at the right position, and actually first drag it in a gate object, and then select this fence and the post or the column. So you select them both and duplicate them by Ctrl D, and just drag them over as long as you want. So I duplicate them a few times. Something like this. And then select this first fence, duplicate it, move it to the other side, and position it. And then also for this side, select the fence, the column, and duplicate them. Just do this a few times. Something like this should be fine. We can close this whole area with the fence by just rotating them in a circle or in a square. So the player can get out and he actually need to go to the fence. But I'm not going to do that in this episode. This should be fine for now. So close this gate prefab. So now I have everything cleaned up. So to open and close these doors, we can actually use the same script as we used in the inside part. And to do this, we need to go to the main camera of the first person controller and add the interact script to it. And if we look at the script, we can see that we fire a raycast when we hit the left mouse button, and we search for a collider with a tag door. So we need to change the tag of these doors, of these gates, and make sure you select this door again and not the whole gate, and change the tag to door. Also do this for the other one, and again make sure you get the door and change the tag to door. Let's close this one again. And if we go back to the script, if we hit the collider with the door tag, we get the parent of the collider, and there get the component door script. And the thing we want to rotate is the hinge. So if you rotate the hinge, we can see that we got the good one. So the script is actually exactly what we want. From the collider we want to get the parent, and from the parent we want to rotate. So we add here the door script and set these angles again. So the door state will be minus 180, and the open state, we need to check that. Oops. The open state will be around 250. So we add that one here. And also for the other door, we go to the hinge, add the component door script, and set the right angles. This one will also be minus 180, and the open state will be 115. If you want to rotate this door, you actually need to set this one to pivot, or just use this rotations, because otherwise the door will rotate in the wrong direction. So set this to pivot or just change the Y in here. So we set this one to 115. Or was it minus? Yeah, minus. And let's quickly look at the door script. We also have audio.play, so we want to play the audio also, and we need to do that by add component and add the audio source. Uncheck play on awake and change this 3D sound settings again. So make this curve a little bit bigger. The volume you can turn it down to say 0.7. And for this audio I included a file which is the metal gate. You don't have this in your project file, but you can download it from freesounds.org or also from this project file. We leave this as the 3D sound. And when we select our gate again, go to the hinge and select our audio clip in here. So this will be the metal gate. Then we copy this component by right clicking and select copy component. And then we just paste it here in the other hinge, so we don't have to actually redo everything. And select paste component as new, so to copy all those settings. So let's quickly test this. Save our scene first, because otherwise something will happen maybe. Into the scenes folder, and we say outside. Save. And then quickly test it. So we come to the door and we click, and the door actually opens. But this one in the wrong direction. Let's see why that happens. Oh, this should probably minus also. This should be... Wait. This should be 180. And this should be 100. Okay, now it should work. 150. The only thing we miss now is the flashlight of the player. So we're going to add this one. So open up your first person controller, and at the main camera we want to make an empty child, and this one we build a flashlight. We did this in the first few parts, so I'm going to go over this quickly. We add a light, and this one will be a spotlight. Change the size and maybe the radius. Intensity something around 0.6, and change the color to something bluish. So now that we set up a scene, we can actually see what we're doing. So we can actually make a directional light, which we can delete afterwards, so we can see what we're doing. And if you want to play the game, just uncheck this one and the scene will be dark again. So for testing purposes, we leave this on. And as you can see, the house is very dark and we can't actually see where the door is. So we're going to add a few lights over here. So go to create, light, and then the point light. And set these up at the windows. Place them slightly in front of the windows. And we disable the directional light for now. And do this for a few windows. The most important one is next to the door, so we can see that the door is here. And change the color to a little bit brownish or yellow. because white doesn't seem very realistic. You can also change something to green and just vary some lights. You don't have to do the backside of this house because the player doesn't have to come here. So when only the front side is lighted, the player knows that he only needs to be at the front. And when we click at this door, we want to go to the next level, so to the inside one. To do this, we make a new empty game object and position it at the door. And if you set it up at the door, we want to add a collider to it. So go to add component, box collider, and make the size exactly the same as the door. Or exactly, it doesn't have to be exactly, as long as it's the same size of the door and it pops out. I think this one should be great. And change this one to house door. And also drag this one into the house. For this one we're going to add a new tag, so go to tags and add tag, and here we choose next level door and apply this tag to our door. And in the interact script, so the one that's attached to our first person controller, we want to add a new if statement. So if the tag isn't door, we want to check if it's the next level door. So write new else, and then just copy this one and paste it behind this. So now if else if, so if this isn't true, this one will be checked. And for the tag, we change this to next level door. Make sure this is the same one as you just assigned to the door. So also with the capitals, and I see I didn't capitalize the D, so this should work. And then in this if statement, we want to proceed to the next level, and to do this we need to load a new level. So we hit application.load level, and between those brackets we say 1, and this is the index of these scenes. So save the script first and then go to file, build settings, and add current. Here you can see the index, and it's 0 because we only have one scene attached to the build settings. So save this scene, open your other scene, the inside one, and also add this scene to the build settings. Add current, and now they're just switched, and now they have the wrong indexes, so just drag the bottom one onto the top one, and now the outside should have index 1 and the inside, oh no, what? And now you can see the inside has index 1 and the outside index 0. So if we hit the door in the outside level, we want to load the level with the index number 1. So that will be the inside. To check if this is working, we'll go to the outside part again. And we select our first person controller and just drag it next to the house, so we don't have to walk this whole end. Hit play. And when we're at the door, we click, and now we loaded the level 1, so we're now inside the house. You can do this over and over, and remember to place the first person controller back again if you want to play the whole game. I hope you liked this tutorial, and if you did, please like, subscribe and comment on this video what you want to see in the next episodes. Episode 5 will contain the ambient noises, the background music and some other scary sounds. If you don't want to miss the upcoming tutorials, please make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next part. Bye guys!